Alright, so here goes. Alright, I've been thinking a lot about a bunch of stuff that's been going on, and I wanted to address each and every American that hears this and that comes into my chat. Just a second, I gotta close the door here. Alright, so, alright, that's better. Alright, so this message is for Americans, and Americans only, okay? And this is going to be controversial. So listen up, it's very important. We, as Americans, and our government, and our military, and specifically the intelligence wing of our military and government, have been in cooperation, shall we say, although I don't really consider it cooperation if I really examine it and break it down, have been working with the British government, the Canadian government, the Australian government, and the New Zealand government in a group known as the Five Eyes, which is intelligence collaborative venture, shall we call it, that has existed out of necessity since beginning at the end of World War II, after World War II. Right, so in order to continue the growth of stability in the world, our government entered into a partnership with the British government, the Canadian government, the Australian government, and the New Zealand government, all of which are either, the UK or Commonwealth, British Commonwealth nations, to share and disseminate and gather intelligence collectively and with each other, to give us more information collectively to work with in terms of how our militaries will operate. Now, there's a problem with this, and here's the problem. We, as Americans, especially, can't really trust the intelligence that we've been receiving, especially from the British government, because, as you're well aware of, looking at our history, we are a revolutionary country that broke away from Britain. I mean, we had a war with Britain, and if that wasn't enough, we had another war with Britain in 1812, and Britain supported the Confederacy in the Civil War. Britain has tried numerous times throughout United States history to take the United States back as one of its colonial style territories, whether it's through aggressive means or outright invasion or economic manipulation, or you name it, they've tried it, right? Now, it's my belief that at this time, and for some time, they have been using our trust of them in intelligence sharing and gathering to um, provide us with disinformation, and that we can no longer trust British intelligence to share accurate information with us that we can base any sort of decision in terms of how our future conduct should be. We just can't trust them anymore. I think we've reached a point where it's clear that they're not operating in the spirit of our agreements, and they seek only to effectively manipulate us into doing their bidding, which is what Vietnam was about, which is, I believe, what Iraq was about to some extent, and other things that have gone on since this arrangement was put into place. So why am I bringing this up right now? Well, here's the reason. I believe that if I were to become president, if indeed I do become president in 2024, that the so-called special relationship between especially Britain and America will cease to be relevant, especially because I think our relationship with Russia is becoming closer, and I think the Russians are operating more in the spirit of collaboration these days and partnership in terms of other world powers, and they do not seek to manipulate us or harm us in any way, and we are obviously conducting ourselves in that manner also. I think the relationship between the United States and Russia is really good, and it will continue to grow. And I think because of that, and the lack of trust that we can put in the British government, intelligence, and military, that our relationship with Britain is waning. And this is indicative even of the actions that the Obama administration took during the 8 years that President Obama was in office. He explicitly stated that he didn't view Britain as anything special. He just viewed it as like another country, and he even went so far as to take Winston Churchill's bust out of the White House, which is a major step, actually, a symbolic move of perhaps where things are going. And I would be completely in agreement with that statement, as apart from, obviously Obama and I have differences, but I would be completely in agreement with him on that matter. And I've spoken with another potential future president, Andy Bishago, and he echoes that same sentiment. We all agree unanimously that we simply can't trust Britain anymore. So why I'm saying this is because Michael Phillips, the gentleman who says he is a British time travel program participant. Well, frankly, I don't doubt that, to be completely honest with you. But what I do doubt, and would strongly encourage anyone who's been watching what's going on our channels to consider, is the probability that he is spreading disinformation in the form of his latest video, which states that he went back to the time where he was from, and saw that I had not become president. Well, I think when Michael Phillips was back here in 2019 and 2020, and this time period, and realized that he could change, could aid in the prevention of World War III, that he thought maybe he could also aid in the prevention of me becoming president so that the special relationship between Britain and America will continue in the way that it has continued, which is effectively like us being the responsible, uh, caring, young country and people taking care of our older, drunk uncle who doesn't really care and just keeps taking our money and keeps feeding us lies and garbage. That's what I view the relationship between our country, the United States, and Britain as. Um, I do hope that changes in the future, and I do hope that perhaps the British government and military and intelligence services will be more honest with their American counterparts, but I do not expect that. What I expect is that if and indeed when I do become president in 2024, that the nature of our collaboration will change and we will become less reliant on foreign intelligence agencies to gather information about how we will be conducting our military. Um, I will simply ignore any and all input from the British government in that regard. I will be more willing to listen to the Canadian government because Canada has always proven to be a real friend to the United States. Uh, the Canadian people, especially, um, they've had some sort of, I would say, dodgy prime ministers, but generally, Canada has conducted itself in the spirit of partnership and cooperation with the United States in that regard, as far as I can tell, and would continue to extend the hand of trust to the Canadian military and intelligence services. But as far as Britain goes, I just believe that they're constantly playing games with the United States, and we can't trust them anymore that way. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. And so, what I'm saying is also here, you know, when you check out Michael Phillips's last video that talks about uh, me not becoming president and instead Mike Pence becoming president, what I believe is that this is another attempt to change the timeline. Because I do believe that that would be possibly more in the interests of British people, British government, British military, and intelligence services for that to occur. But what I'm proposing is more in the interest of you and we, the American people. And that is that, yes, I do become president, and yes, I do effectively terminate this relationship that we have with the British government. And, if they're willing to negotiate something new that we can trust works for every party involved, then so be it. But until further notice, I would effectively terminate that relationship. Um, so I want you guys to think about that. Understand that we are receiving disinformation from many angles that is designed to manipulate us, not just from the media, but from foreign intelligence services who are supposed to be our allies, but are not conducting themselves in uh, such a manner. Um, and think about what could happen if we don't do something about this, if we just allow it to continue the way it's been. I don't think that's very wise. I don't think that's very good for the United States. And I definitely don't think it's good for the American people. And as much as it pains me, being, you know, part partially of English ancestry myself, to effectively sever that relationship, I think it is important to do so because I understand the nature of what we're dealing with probably better than most Americans. And it is not uh, benevolent, it is not kind, it is not helpful, it is not useful, and it is in fact uh, like continuing to have that drunk uncle around the house who just lies to you and steals your stuff and doesn't really care that he's harming you. So there's another proposal that I have for the American people. Please let me know what you think of that. I'm going to post this video as soon as I'm done with it. So keep in mind that this video, as you're seeing it, is brand new. It was recorded today. And I'm really interested in what you all think about what I've just talked about, especially those of you who understand that, you know, we're getting disinformation without time travel being involved. What makes us think that time travelers from other countries wouldn't be using that against us? As much as it pains me to say that, um, I believe this to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. This is Michael Macintosh. Thank you for your time, and talk to you guys soon.